My name is Gloria, and at 52, I thought I had seen every kind of heartbreak life could offer. But standing outside that wedding chapel in my expensive navy dress, watching my daughter Amanda float down the aisle in white silk, nothing prepared me for what my own daughter would do to me on the most important day of her life. How did the woman who built a multi-million-dollar empire become invisible at her daughter's wedding? Before I tell you this story, let me know in the comments where you're watching from, and please hit that like button. You'll want to stay until the end, because what happened next changed everything between us forever. It all started 6 months earlier, when my phone rang during a board meeting. Amanda's voice bubbled with excitement as she announced her engagement to Marcus. I remember dropping my Mont Blanc pen and excusing myself from the conference room filled with investors. My little girl was getting married. "Mom, we're so happy," she said, her voice carrying that breathless joy I hadn't heard since she was 8 years old. "Marcus proposed last night at the restaurant where we had our first date." I felt tears spring to my eyes. "Sweetheart, that's wonderful. Tell me everything." But as we talked, I noticed something. Every time I offered to help with wedding planning or suggested contributing financially, Amanda deflected. "We want to do this ourselves, Mum," she said firmly. "It's important to us to handle everything independently." I understood her desire for independence. After all, I'd raised her to be strong and self-sufficient. When her father walked out on us when she was 8, leaving me with nothing but a failed marriage and $5,000 in savings, I'd built Technova from scratch. Late nights, missed school events, business trips during her high school years. I'd sacrificed presents for provision, thinking I was showing her what a strong woman looked like. Now, as I sat in my corner office overlooking downtown Chicago, I wondered if those sacrifices had cost me more than I'd gained. Every conversation about the wedding felt stilted formal. Amanda shared details reluctantly, and I found myself learning more about her plans through social media than through our phone calls. Just 3 weeks before the wedding, Forbes magazine hit the stands with my face on the cover. "Self-Made Women Who Changed Tech" was the headline, featuring my story of building a company worth $50 million. The irony wasn't lost on me. The whole world was celebrating my success, but my own daughter felt distant as ever. When I called to share the news, Amanda's response was lukewarm. "That's nice, Mum. I saw it at the grocery store checkout." That was it. No excitement, no pride, just polite acknowledgement before she changed the subject back to catering menus. I hung up that day, feeling more isolated than ever. Here I was, being recognized globally for my achievements, but the one person whose approval I craved most remained unmoved. I told myself she was just busy with wedding stress, that things would be different after she got married and settled down. The week leading up to the wedding was a masterclass in subtle exclusion. When I called to ask about the dress code, Amanda's assistant answered and put me on hold for 15 minutes before Amanda picked up with a rushed "navy or burgundy would be fine, Mum." Nothing too flashy. I spent hours at Nordstrom, finally settling on an elegant navy Armani dress that cost more than most people's monthly rent. I wanted to look perfect for my daughter's special day, wanted her to be proud to have me there. The night before the wedding, I saw Instagram stories from the rehearsal dinner, candlelit tables, Amanda laughing with her bridesmaids, Marcus's parents raising toasts. I wasn't there. When I called to ask about it, Amanda sounded annoyed. "Mum, it was just immediate family and the wedding party," she said, her voice carrying that edge I'd come to dread. "We kept it small." But Marcus's grandparents were there. His college roommate, who'd been designated an honorary groomsman, was there. Even the wedding planner's assistant seemed to have made the guest list. I was her mother, but apparently that didn't qualify as immediate enough. The morning of the wedding, I woke up in my empty penthouse apartment. The space that had once felt like a symbol of my success now felt cavernous and cold. I walked past the framed photo on my desk from Amanda's high school graduation. She was smiling, then her arm around my shoulders, both of us beaming at the camera. When had that changed? When had I become someone she tolerated rather than celebrated? I spent extra time on my makeup that morning, determined to look radiant despite the growing pit in my stomach. This was my daughter's wedding day. Whatever tension existed between us could be set aside for 24 hours. Today was about love and new beginnings. The drive to Willowbrook Country Club in my Porsche should have been celebratory. Instead, I felt like I was driving to my own execution. The GPS cheerfully announced I'd arrived at my destination, but the valet looked confused when I pulled up. "Are you here for the Martinez-Thompson wedding?" he asked, checking his clipboard. "Yes, I'm the bride's mother," I replied, handing him my keys. His expression shifted to surprise, then embarrassment. "Oh, I'm sorry. We weren't expecting. We have a special parking area for immediate family. It's fine," I interrupted, not wanting to make a scene. "The regular lot is perfectly fine." But as I watched Marcus's parents arrive 5 minutes later and get escorted to VIP parking right next to the entrance, I realized this wasn't an oversight. This was intentional. Walking into the ceremony space, I felt my chest tighten. The chapel was stunning, decorated with white roses and baby's breath, exactly what Amanda had dreamed of since she was little. But as I looked for my seat, my heart began to sink. The front row had reserved signs, "Parents of the groom." The second row was marked for grandparents and siblings. I walked down the aisle, scanning each row for my name, for any indication of where the mother of the bride was supposed to sit. Nothing. A young groomsman noticed my confusion and approached with a friendly smile. "Can I help you find your seat?" "I'm looking for the section reserved for the bride's mother," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. His smile faltered. "I'm sorry, who are you?" The question hit me like a physical blow. "I'm Amanda's mother, Gloria Martinez." His face went through a series of expressions. Confusion, surprise, then deep embarrassment. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Let me find someone who knows the seating chart." But I was already walking away, my heels clicking against the marble floor like a countdown timer. I found Amanda in the bridal suite, surrounded by her bridesmaids. She looked absolutely radiant in her grandmother's vintage lace dress, the same dress I'd worn to my own wedding 25 years ago. "Honey," I said, stepping into the room. The chatter immediately died down. "I think there's been a mistake with the seating arrangement." Amanda didn't turn around. She continued staring at herself in the mirror while her maid of honor adjusted her veil. "What mistake? There's no seat marked for me. Where am I supposed to sit?" The silence in the room was deafening. Finally, Amanda turned to face me, and I saw something in her eyes I'd never seen before. Cold calculation. "Mum, just find somewhere in the back. It's not a big deal." "In the back?" The words came out strangled. "But I'm your mother." Amanda's jaw tightened. "Mum, try not to ruin anything today. You should feel honoured just to be here." The cruelty of those words took my breath away. Her bridesmaids pretended to be busy with flowers and makeup, but I could feel their shocked stares. I stood there for a moment, waiting for her to take it back to say she didn't mean it. But she just turned back to the mirror. I walked out of that room with whatever dignity I had left, and made my way to the back of the chapel. Row 8 between strangers, who probably wondered why the overdressed woman in Armani was crying during someone else's wedding processional. Sitting in that back row, watching my daughter walk down the aisle with her stepfather, Marcus's uncle, who she'd known for 3 years, I felt something break inside me. But as the ceremony progressed, I also felt something else, a strange sense of clarity. I watched Marcus's mother dab at her eyes with pride. I watched his father beam as his son said his vows. I watched grandparents and siblings lean forward to catch every word. And I realized I wasn't just seated in the back by accident. I'd been erased from this day entirely. During the cocktail hour, I stood by the bar, nursing a glass of champagne and watching Amanda pose for photos with Marcus's family. In every shot, his mother stood where the bride's mother should be. In group photos, I wasn't even called over. That's when everything changed. A distinguished man in his 60s approached me, his face lighting up with recognition. "Excuse me, but aren't you the woman on the cover of Forbes magazine this month?" I looked up surprised. "Yes, I am." "Gloria Martinez," he said, extending his hand. "I'm Robert Chen with Beacon Venture Capital. Your story about building Technova from scratch was incredible. The way you pivoted during the 2008 recession and turned a $5,000 startup into a $50 million company. Brilliant." As we shook hands, I noticed other guests beginning to turn our way. Robert's voice carried, and in a room full of business professionals, my name meant something. "I had no idea you'd be here," Robert continued. "Are you connected to the couple?" "Amanda is my daughter," I said simply. The shock on his face was immediate. "Your daughter, Amanda Thompson, is your daughter." By now, we'd attracted a small crowd. A woman I didn't recognize stepped forward. "Wait, you're the Gloria Martinez, the tech CEO. I saw you on Good Morning America last week." Another guest chimed in. "You're the woman who refused the buyout offer from Microsoft." That was legendary. From across the room, I saw Amanda stop mid-conversation with her photographer. She was staring at the growing group around me, her expression shifting from annoyance to confusion to something that looked almost like panic. Marcus appeared at her side, following her gaze. "Who's that woman everyone's talking to?" I couldn't hear Amanda's response, but I saw her face go pale when someone nearby answered Marcus's question. "That's Gloria Martinez. She's on the Forbes cover this month. Built a tech empire from nothing." Marcus's mouth fell open. "Wait, that's your mother, the tech CEO." The momentum continued to build throughout the evening. During dinner, I found myself seated at table 12 near the kitchen with distant relatives and family friends who barely knew Amanda. Meanwhile, Marcus's mother held court at the head table, basking in the role that should have been mine. But something interesting was happening at my table. Once word spread about who I was, the conversation became animated. Amanda's great-aunt Margaret, who I'd only met once before, leaned in with wide eyes. "Dear, I had no idea you were so successful," she whispered. "That Forbes article made you sound like some kind of business genius." "Amanda never mentioned you were famous," added Marcus's cousin David, pulling out his phone to show his wife my magazine cover. I smiled politely, but inside I was reeling. Famous, I'd been featured in countless business publications over the years. I'd given keynote speeches at major conferences. I'd been quoted in the Wall Street Journal more times than I could count. But my own daughter had never mentioned any of it to her future in-laws. That's when Marcus's parents approached our table. His father, William Thompson, extended his hand with a sheepish smile. "Gloria, we owe you an apology," he said. "We had no idea about your business success. That Forbes cover story. Truly impressive." His wife, Patricia, nodded enthusiastically. "When we saw you earlier, we assumed you were a family friend. Amanda never mentioned you were the Forbes cover story." The words hung in the air like an accusation. I looked across the room to where Amanda was cutting the cake, and our eyes met for a brief moment. She looked away quickly, but not before I saw something I'd never seen in my daughter's face before shame. The wedding planner, Sarah, appeared at my elbow, looking frantic. "Mrs. Martinez, I am so sorry. There's been a terrible mistake with the seating arrangements. You should be at the head table. We had no idea of your status." "The arrangements were made by Amanda," I said quietly. "I think she wanted them this way." Sarah's face went white. She hurried away, probably to figure out how such a massive protocol breach had occurred. 20 minutes later, Amanda approached my table. Her wedding smile was still in place, but I could see the tension in her jaw. "Mom, people are asking me about your business," she said, sitting down in the empty chair next to me. "What kind of questions?" "About why I never mentioned you were on Forbes. About why you weren't more involved in planning. It's complicated." I set down my champagne glass and looked at my daughter. "Complicated how?" "This is embarrassing," she said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "People think I didn't know my own mother was successful." "Is that what you're worried about?" I asked. how this looks, not how you treated me today, but how it reflects on you." Amanda's face flushed. "I didn't treat you badly. You told me I should feel honored just to be here." "I didn't mean it like that." "How did you mean it, Amanda? Because from where I'm sitting, you've made it very clear that you're ashamed of me." As the evening progressed, the dynamic in the room shifted completely. During the dancing portion, I found myself surrounded by guests wanting to talk business, share their own entrepreneurial stories, or simply express admiration for my journey. A pharmaceutical executive's wife suggested we take a photo together. A young entrepreneur asked for my business card. Amanda watched from across the dance floor, her smile growing more strained by the hour. Marcus's best man approached me during the father-daughter dance. "Mrs. Martinez," he said, extending his hand. "I'm James Marcus's best friend. I owe you an apology." "For what?" "For not knowing who you were earlier. Marcus told me about Amanda's family, but he said—" James paused, looking uncomfortable. "What did he say?" "He said Amanda's mother was difficult, that you weren't very involved in her life, but seeing how people respect you tonight, I realize there might be another side to that story." My heart clenched. "What exactly did Amanda tell Marcus about me?" James glanced around nervously. "That you were always too busy for her, that you chose work over family, that you weren't much of a mother." The pieces finally clicked into place. Amanda hadn't just distanced herself from me, she'd actively rewritten our history. In her version, I wasn't a devoted single mother who'd worked herself to exhaustion to give her every opportunity. I was a cold, absent workaholic who'd neglected her daughter for corporate success. During the bouquet toss, I approached Amanda near the bandstand. "We need to talk after your honeymoon." "About what?" she asked, her voice defensive. "About the stories you've told Marcus about me, about why you felt the need to minimize my role in your life." "I didn't minimize anything." "Amanda, you seated me in the back like a distant acquaintance. You told me I should feel honored to be here. Marcus's best friend just told me that you described me as a neglectful mother." Amanda's composure finally cracked. "You were neglectful, you were always working, always traveling, always putting the company first." "I was building a future for us," I said quietly. "Everything I did was for you." "No, it wasn't," she shot back. "It was for you, for your ego, for your success. I needed a mother, not a business mentor." The hurt in her voice was real and it cut deep, but so was mine. "I won't apologize for building something meaningful," I said finally. "I won't apologize for showing you that women can be successful and independent. And I won't beg for a place in your life anymore." I turned to leave, but Marcus appeared, blocking my path. "Please don't go because of tonight," he said earnestly. "I'd like to get to know the real you, not the version I was told about." I looked back at Amanda, who stood frozen behind him. That's up to Amanda to decide. Then, I walked out of my daughter's wedding with my dignity intact, followed by half a dozen guests who wanted to continue our business conversations in the parking lot. The drive home that night was the longest of my life. I sat in my car for 20 minutes outside my building, replaying the entire evening. The hurt was overwhelming, but underneath it, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years: relief. For so long, I'd been apologizing for my success, making myself smaller, trying to be the kind of mother I thought Amanda wanted. But tonight had shown me something crucial. Amanda wasn't angry about having a distant mother. She was angry about having a successful one. The following week, my phone rang. Amanda's name appeared on the screen, and for a moment I considered letting it go to voicemail, but curiosity won out. "Mum." Her voice was different, uncertain. "Hello, Amanda. People are still talking about you from the wedding," she said. "Marcus has been asking me questions about our relationship." "What kind of questions?" "About why I never mentioned your business success, about why you weren't more involved in the planning, about why—" She paused. "About why I seemed ashamed of you." I waited. This conversation was hers to lead. "Marcus asked me something that I can't stop thinking about," she continued. He asked why being successful was wrong. He said his dad worked long hours building their construction business, but they still honoured him at the wedding. They still talked about his achievements with pride. I felt tears starting to form, but I stayed silent. I told Marcus you were always working, but he asked why that made you a bad mother. He said maybe you were working so hard because you were a good mother, because you wanted to give me opportunities. Amanda, I think I was angry that you succeeded without needing me, she said in a rush. When Dad left, I wanted you to fail. I wanted you to need me the way I needed you, but you didn't fail. You became more successful than ever, and I felt unnecessary. The tears were flowing freely now. Oh, honey, you were never unnecessary. You were the reason I fought so hard. I know that now, she whispered. Marcus helped me see it. Every late night, every difficult decision, every sacrifice. It was all for me, but I was too angry to appreciate it. I should have told you that more often, I admitted. I should have made sure you knew that everything I built was because I loved you, not despite loving you. We talked for 2 hours that day. It wasn't a complete healing, that would take time, but it was a beginning. 3 months later, Amanda and Marcus invited me to Sunday dinner. As I sat at their table, listening to Amanda tell Marcus's parents about my latest business deal, with genuine pride in her voice, I realized something important. Being a good mother doesn't mean making yourself invisible. It doesn't mean apologizing for your achievements or minimizing your worth. Sometimes the best thing you can teach your children is how to respect themselves, how to stand in their truth without apology. That wedding taught me that love without respect isn't really love at all. And respect starts with the person looking back at you in the mirror. I spent years trying to earn my daughter's love by diminishing myself. But the moment I stood in my full truth, everything changed. Amanda and I are rebuilding our relationship now brick by brick. It's not perfect, but it's honest. She's learning to be proud of having a mother who changed an industry, and I'm learning that being successful doesn't make me a bad mother. It makes me an example of what's possible. The little girl who once sat in my office colouring while I worked late is now a woman who understands that strength comes in many forms. Sometimes it looks like staying up all night with a sick child, and sometimes it looks like building an empire so that child never has to depend on anyone else for her security. Both are acts of love. Both are necessary. Both deserve respect. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever felt like you had to choose between your dreams and your relationships? Have you ever been made to feel guilty for your success? Share your story in the comments below, and don't forget to hit that like button if this story resonated with you. Subscribe for more stories about finding your strength and standing in your truth. And please share this with someone who needs to hear that their success is nothing to apologize for. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, you don't have to make yourself smaller for others to feel comfortable. Your achievements matter, your worth matters, and you deserve a place at every table, especially the ones set by the people who claim to love you.